this up. Should be coming up. Yes. Alright. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. I'm your host, Yakin with Sarah, and this is, go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead, Musky.
Hi.
So this is Musky Hans. And
or Hans Club.
Yeah. He is going to be answering any questions you guys have about ice fishing or fishing in Wisconsin or anything like that.
How about we talk about ice fishing for the first little while, and then we can talk about whatever.
Okay. All right. Let me share this on my Facebook page real quick. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do the shout-outs. Outdoors Weekly is first. How's it going? K-Bug, how's it going? Irvin the Paid Tourist. Outdoor said, how's it going, Muskie?
I'm doing okay. The weather kind of stinks here. We got like 3 inches of snow this weekend, so
that
kind of stinks, but otherwise I'm doing fine.
Precious Angling, how's it going? Kentucky Catman, what's up? Wyatt Life, how's it going?
Hi everyone. High Precision Angling, Kentucky Catman, Wyatt Life, K-Bug Clark, Kentucky Cat, The Murder Rank, and Catfish Bill. Not much is up, Catfish Bill. I was just sat around all day. I didn't even go out fishing. Yesterday I fished for like 20 minutes, and that was like a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and I could barely cast into the wind.
But you still...
Yeah, I'm still down to go fishing this summer. We'll just have to figure out the time, and I can probably make some time in my schedule.
You put out a pretty good video today. I thought that was a pretty good compilation of everything.
Yeah, I hope everyone thought it was funny. Some of the stuff was pretty silly.
Yeah, it was.
Do not grab a pike like you would a bass like I did in that. That did not go over very well.
Let's see.
That hole wasn't drilled all the way through, because if you don't drill through all the way, there'll be a smaller spot at the bottom. So I put the tip up in someone else's ice fishing hole, and the tip up, I think we were fishing with 6-inch suckers, a foot underneath the ice in 2 to 3 feet of water in this slough. And I went there a few days before then, and I think I caught a 30-some-odd inch pike and a couple smaller pike. And then we went back there with a bunch of friends. And that we had 3 flags, and they only hit the suckers, and they wouldn't hit shiners. And that's how, oh, that sounds fine outdoors. And that's how, then I ended up getting in the hole that wasn't drilled all the way through. And they're kind of tough to get out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I guess I'll start out talking what you need to go ice fishing.
That sounds good.
So the first thing you need is an ice auger, and there's hand augers, or there's gas augers, or they have propane augers. The cheapest hand auger is probably about $60 to $80. And a lot of the power augers can range probably between $300 to $400 for a cheap one to $600 or $800. I really haven't looked into buying one because I haven't just had the money to spend on one, and I'm trying to do things on a budget. But obviously, the augers, you want to have a certain auger size depending upon what fish you're fishing for. If you're perch fishing or bluegill fishing, you can get away with a 5-inch hand auger, but if you're fishing for pike, you're going to want to use 8 to 10-inch auger, preferably for tip-ups. For pike, a 10-inch auger is best, but an 8-inch auger will work fine. Because a 40-inch pike has a girth of 25 inches, which doesn't really quite, if you do the math and calculate the circumference of a circle, it doesn't quite fit through there very well. So once in a while, if you catch a big pike, it doesn't fit through like a 5 or 6 inch hole very well.
Yeah. I could only
But like in the waters we fish, there's pike everywhere. So if you fish with minnows, you'll catch pike, even on crappie minnows.
Okay.
So then you need like an ice scoop, which has like holes in it, like a spoon that has holes in it. And you want one that's the right size for your hole. So if you want one that's like 4 inches around, if you have a 5-inch holes, and you can get away with a little bigger scoop if you have larger holes. And you're going to want to scoop the ice out of the hole to fish through them.
So don't do it with your hands like you did?
No, preferably don't do it with your hands. That's how you get frostbite. It gets kind of cold. Yeah. Everybody said my hands are super tough because I go outside and they're pretty tolerant to the cold. So those things are two definitely things you need before you can even fish. And you also probably want to buy a minnow net too, so you don't have to put your hands in the minnow bucket. And you preferably want a minnow bucket that's insulated, because if you just use like a 5-gallon bucket to put minnows in, or an uninsulated bucket, it will freeze pretty quick if it's like more than 5 or 10 degrees below freezing. So if like you're fishing when it's 0 out, then your minnows will freeze like pretty quickly.
Precision said
I agree with you, precision angling. 3 feet of ice, you want a 10-inch hole for it to get pike out. When they start shaking their head, they get really hard to pull up through the hole. Same thing like if you're jigging for walleyes. If you're fishing like the jigging wrap, you want a larger hole too, because the jigging wrap or bait has like hooks on the end of it and gets caught on the hole when you pull the fish up through the hole.
Do you ever
Too bad you can't ice fish in the summer. You can put a tip up on like a kid's noodle or a kid's floaty round thing, and you can put it on the lake. I've seen some video of people doing that. Or you can take your ice fishing rod and drop it over the side of your boat.
What's the thickest ice that you've ever fished in? I saw you do the hole at the end of your video.
Like that was about that year. There was like 4 feet of ice. That would have been like the winter of 2013, and it was like I had just moved to Fargo, North Dakota. I'm originally from by where I'm living now, and I did my undergraduate at Stevens Point, and then I applied to do my master's degree at some places in North Dakota State, which is in Fargo, is where I got accepted. And so I moved out there. When I moved out there, like the first month I lived out there, there was like 3 days above 0.
Oh.
So like that year, there was like the least that ice on a lake was like 3 feet. Like people were having to buy extensions for their augers because the augers couldn't go through the ice. And that long auger had like an 18-inch extension on it. Oh. And I should have, if I had money, I would have bought a power auger. But it's really tough to ice fish when there's that much ice.
How long did that take you?
That took me, I sped it up. That took me like, the original video that was from was like 6 minutes, I think.
Okay. Well, that's
a lot of that footage was from like multiple years ago, like when my channel was really small. So like it wasn't, only like 3 of those clips were from this year.
What's the thinnest ice?
But there's still fun memories. There's still fun memories that I look back at and laugh at. So that's all it matters.
Nothing worse
and then you need
an extension, especially for a hand auger.
Yeah, I don't think, if you have 3 feet of ice, you almost have to get an extension on hand or power auger, so they're not meant to go through that much. Since I moved back to Madison, we haven't had as much ice, though. The most I drilled to this last year was about 20 inches.
Okay.
So it hasn't been as thick. It's nice, though, because by where I'm at UW-Madison, there's like 3 lakes within 5 to 10 minutes of where I work at, so I can just go there and fish for a few hours. And that's where a lot of my ice fishing videos were done at. And they've iced out for a few weeks now. But like in northern Wisconsin, there's still like 2-3 feet of ice on lakes. And in like Lake of the Woods in that area too, because it's been so cold.
Yeah.
Like it'll be like 50 or 60 for a couple days, and then it will be like freezing for 3 or 4 days, or below freezing.
But your ice season is done where you're at, right?
Yeah, all the lakes don't have ice where I'm at. I don't know how far north in Wisconsin you have to go until you find lakes that still have ice on them.
Okay.
I haven't drove up that way or really talked to that many people that live up there.
What's the thinnest ice you've ever fished on?
An inch and a half, probably.
Inch and a half? That's probably not recommended, right?
I would highly not advise it. I'd say 3 is the minimum to be safe. And you want to look at whether it's like clear ice or whether it's like honeycombed or has stuff frozen in it. Because if the ice is clear and 3 inches, like you can see through it, although it's scary as can be to be on, it's at least solid ice. But like when you have like snow and thawed stuff mixed into the ice, it's not as strong and it breaks easier. So you want to be more careful on it.
Okay.
And I would buy like some orange ice pick things if you're going out on thin ice, and you have a spud bar which you walk around with to check the thickness of the ice. And if the spud bar goes through right away, it's probably not safe.
I am drinking sweet tea, Dexter. What's the difference between fishing summer and winter besides the ice?
You have to use completely different tactics fishing in the winter. In the winter, people fish with baits like you usually would fish vertically. So you use like ice fishing jigs or jigging spoons, or you can use jigging wraps. Just some bait like that's meant to be presented vertically, not some jig that's meant to be presented horizontally. So like some of the small people usually, I guess, now that we talked about drilling the hole and a little bit of safety, we can start talking about fishing for stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're after like bluegills, or you sort of want a rod that has a pretty light action, like an ultralight jigging rod or light action jigging pole, so you can feel them bite lightly. And you usually fish with some type of small ice fishing jig that is like a 48th of an ounce or really lightweight, and they have all sorts of sizes to them. And like some are heavier or lighter, and they make them out of tungsten or lead. And sometimes you want tungsten ones or larger ones that fall faster, but other times you want really small ones or light ones, depending upon like what the fish tell you. And you usually tip them with different types of ice fishing plastics they sell, or like mini plastic waxworms or things, or I've never chummed while ice fishing rip and tip. Or then you put on like waxworms or spikes, which are like maggot larvae, or some people use like mealworms or nightcrawler chunks or leafworm chunks. I really haven't seen anyone do well on nightcrawler chunks to the ice till I saw Precision Angling's videos where he was doing well on nightcrawler chunks, because most people around me just fish with waxworms or spikes or plastics for bluegill.
Okay. How do you find a spot
to ice fish?
Yeah.
You just look at the lakes around you and see where people are fishing, or and like in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Ontario, there's hundreds of lakes to fish.
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure some of the lakes have more or less springs, depending on how well they're connected to groundwater and so forth. So like if lakes have a river flowing through them or a lot of springs, like they'll ice up later.
Okay.
Whereas if they have less of that, they'll ice up sooner. And generally lakes that are shallower ice up quicker too, or like the bays and stuff. So like big lakes take a lot longer to ice up than smaller lakes.
Catfish Bill asked what your PB was.
PB for what?
Bill, you're gonna be a little bit more specific on that because
bluegill,
I've seen them
crappie.
catch, yeah, a little bit of everything.
My PB crappie is like 15. My PB crappie through the ice is probably like 13 and a half. I haven't got into any big crappies through the Musky 51.
51. Wow.
I really haven't got into that many big crappies ice fishing. The lake that I posted a couple of my recent open water fishing in, where we were like fishing off a dock and on the in these channels they made, like has really big crappies in it. Like people get 15 to 17 inches there, which are big for Wisconsin. But like but ice fishing is like a really tricky lake to fish, and it has inconsistent ice. Hi, Dewey.
Hey, Dewey. Johnny, I fish for a little bit of everything. In my area, it's mostly bass, catfish, panfish. Every summer I go saltwater fishing, so just a little bit of everything. On my channel right now, you're going to see a lot of bass fishing, though. That's going to change a little bit this year.
See a rip and tip. I would say I fish for a little bit of everything, too. I don't know. I originally started my channel and just wanted to film musky fishing, and some ice fishing, because ice fishing was easy to film because you can just have like the tip up go off and turn on the camera and then record it, like pulling it in on the tip up. So what's my favorite video? That's a tough one. I think one of my favorite videos was like Moose Lake, Musky in Northern, where we were in our canoe and we forgot our net, and it took us like 5 minutes to land the muskie in our canoe.
Am I going ice fishing next year? That's not scheduled right now. We'll see how after the summer goes. I've got some plans for the summer. I am not single. I am married. Buy a small 20-pound scale to put in my pocket. I agree with you, Catman. I've got one in the car right now with batteries in it. It's good to go, I promise.
I need to get a scale too.
Yeah.
I was gonna send one in the mail to Fly Fishing Ninja too, but he said he didn't need one. But
he needs one now. He caught a pretty good bass the other day.
Yeah.
Musky's fishing videos are so well narrated.
Well, not always. Mine really vary, I guess. Like some days I just go out and fish and don't catch much, but other days I just go out and catch a ton of whatever we're fishing for. Like some of the walleye fishing videos and pan fishing videos, like we catch a whole bunch of them. Whereas like some of these trout fishing videos I've been doing, I don't know why, but they haven't been biting that well. So it's not like we have a ton of footage. I don't know. I think the more fun part with that is just seeing what the creeks are like and areas like too, though. So that's all good too. Like I get sick of doing the same thing every day.
What size?
I don't know. I think it's kind of boring if I just go to the same dam or same channel and just catch the same fish every time too. And it's like I have enough stuff to fish for where I can mix it up here.
Yeah, you have a huge variety there.
Yeah.
That's not something I have here, unfortunately.
Like I was thinking I've already landed like 18 or 19 species of fish between saltwater and freshwater here.
That's awesome.
Nor saltwater, not between ice fishing and open water fishing, I meant. That's good, Topwater King. I didn't fish today.
Yeah, you got some snow there today. I was working all day. We got an 8-pound and a 15-pound blue in the floodwaters. That's awesome, Kentucky Catman. Let's see. What size line do you use on your ice rods?
Oh, so then I was going to get to that. Yeah. For bluegills, you want to use 2 to 4 pound, preferably if you're using light jigs. So it sinks pretty fast. And like if you have a small jig, sometimes you want to put on a split shot, or other times you don't want to put on a split shot. And for crappies, what you usually do is you usually like set out like a slip bobber and minnow, like you'd use open water, and set it to a certain depth under the ice, or you have like tip downs or these automatic fishermen's and stuff that you put down a minnow on at a certain depth. And then for crappie, you use like the same jigging stuff you do for bluegills, or you can use like jigging spoons or other like jigging like baits that are a little larger.
Okay.
And you can also like tip the jigs with minnows instead of wax worms. A lot of times for ice fishing, they have like flashers like Vexlars or Markham or Humminbird makes them, which cost like $300 for a cheap one, $600-700 for the high end ones. And like they basically just send down a sonar and just mark the fish as a line on them. And they can, like, if it's clear, you're not marking any weeds or any fish. But the cats are in the background. I'm surprised they haven't kitty bombed it yet.
Fishing with Big D said, what's an embarrassing fishing moment? If you have one, please share. I think the one with you falling in the water was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Yeah. So the flashes are a must-have precision angling. And I was going to say, like for bluegills, generally the bluegills through the ice relate tight to the bottom or weed structure, so they're closer to bottom or structure. And the crappies can be anywhere throughout the water column. And literally one day they'll be on bottom with the crappies. And the next day you'll have to work them up like 6-8 feet off the bottom. So if you use like live bait rigs, which are just where you just drop down a minnow, sometimes like if you have a flasher, you can see what depth they're coming up to and hitting, and you adjust the lines around you to the depth that they're hitting at, because they're not, they like move around in schools and are more of a basin related fish, or they can relate to like brush or certain structure. But like the crappies don't consistently like feed to bottom or to structure. Like they can move around a lot too and be more of a basin related. By like each lake fishes its own way. Like some lakes they'll put down cribs and you can drop an underwater camera into the crib and there'll be a bunch of crappies and bluegills in it. Whereas on other lakes, the crappies will just be the suspended basin bite where they move around a lot. So you have to move around a lot to find them. Oh, and I'll talk about perch now too. Perch, you would use the same similar techniques you would use for crappie or bluegill. Like, and they're also related to weeds in some lakes and like a basin bite in other lakes. So like if you go to like Devil's Lake, North Dakota, or some of the lakes in the Dakotas, like they're just out in the basin and you just drill a whole bunch of holes till you find them, and they move around a lot. And for them, you would use minnows or wax worms for bait on a jig, or you can just drop down a hook in a minnow, or you can use jigging spoons or ice fishing plastics and catch them on that. Like jigging spoons work really well for a perch because they're more of a flashy, attracting bait, or like a Castmaster spoon or slender spoon or so forth. I wish I had all my ice fishing tackle here so I could show some of it. But I guess it would be easier to like show an actual video where you zoomed in on what it is, because it's just like small baits too, though.
I'm gonna run through chat real quick. Musky and Sarah, if you go fishing and you catch your limit on what you're fishing for, do you go home or do you fish for something else? I usually catch photo release. If I'm fishing for dinner, I will usually switch to something else. I don't usually end my day just because I've caught the limit. What about you, Musky?
I don't know. Usually, if I catch my limit, I've been on the ice long enough. I've only kept my limit of panfish a few times. The downside to keeping your limit of panfish is that you got to clean all of them. So if you keep 25 bluegills, you got to fillet 25 bluegills, and that takes like an hour to do.
What's your favorite live or artificial bait for pike in the summer?
Me?
Yes. I don't have pike.
I guess my two, hey Nesting David, my two favorite, my best artificial live, my favorite thing to fish for pike in the summer is just like a medium, small size musky bucktail. Something that moves pretty quick and can cover a lot of water around me. Or if you're up in like Canada or somewhere, like a 3/4 ounce little Cleo I like too. Just something that's pretty easy to fish. I always catch most of my pike fishing videos that'll be coming out like in a month are probably just me accidentally catching them on various musky baits, because I'll be doing quite a bit of musky fishing then. So like there's still pike where I musky fish, so you always hook into like a 30-inch pike, or frequently do when you're musky fishing.
Let's see. Tommy, welcome. Sunday Night Live, I've usually got someone in here interviewing. I'll have Dieter actually in here next week. We're talking about ice fishing and just fishing around where muskie's at in general tonight. So any questions you have about any of that, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll answer them best we can. Let's see. Wyatt, I like moving baits like big inline spinners or spinner baits for summer pike.
Spinner baits are good for pike too. Yeah. I agree with you there.
Gunfire really sets the ambience. What's going on, Frank? Hey, Nesting Haven. Let's see.
Hi, Nesting Haven.
Does my husband fish with me?
Fishing.
Absolutely not.
LOL, twisted fishing. Pike will hit almost anything that moves, though. I've caught them in anything from crappie jigs and ice fishing jigs with wax worms to double cowgirl or half-pound musky baits. A double cowgirl is like the really big weighted musky spinners, or double 10s. They have 2 number 10 Colorado blades, so they move a lot of water. Like pike are pretty goddamn aggressive fish. And I think no matter what species of game fish you fished for in Wisconsin or Minnesota or Ontario and a lot of places, you're going to catch some pike.
He doesn't fish because he got burned out a while back, so he's just not very interested in it anymore. Let's see. Fishing with Big D asks this every week. I hope he's still in the chat because I'm going to go ahead and ask it for him. What's your favorite cartoon?
I haven't watched cartoons in ages.
I know.
High HOTS fishing.
Let's see. What waders do you recommend?
I want to get back to talking about what we're talking about, perch fishing.
Yes, go ahead.
Correct. So like perch in some lakes will be just like a base related thing, but in like the one lake on the Madison chain I fished, they'll usually relate to structure. So like you'll fish on points and they'll just like come up onto the points like you'd fish for walleyes, and then they'll relate to points. And in some lakes they'll also relate to weeds. A lot of the lakes have dinky perch though, and a few of the lakes have bigger perch. And usually the lakes that actually have fewer weeds tend to have larger perch. And like the dink perch seem to like all the weeds and heavier cover. But like the perch will move around a lot too in the winter, so you got to drill a lot of holes for them. And like some people also have like these old style rods that just like you reel with a 1-to-1 gear ratio, which they call like Mendota rigs or something, which they drop down to really heavy weight and just a little jig. And then you pull them up. But if you're like perch fishing in more than 30 feet of water, you're popping the air bladders on them, so the release probably isn't that good anyways. So that's the downside if you're fishing out in deeper waters. The fish don't always release so great. Like if you're fishing up shallow, you can sort through and release anything. But if you're like in 30 or 50 feet of water, it's not very good for the fish to pull them up fast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the one lake by me, like you get some 10 to 14-inch walleyes out deep too, which you had to let go.
No.
But most people who fish for perch or walleyes keep them, fish for them to eat. It's not like they go after for the sport or entertainment from it, of the thrill of catching them and so forth. Because like a lot of bass and musky fishermen are strictly catch and release, whereas like most of the walleye or perch fishermen, especially through the ice, like if you go out to fish for perch, you usually go out to fish for them to eat them.
All right.
And a lot of the people I see out ice fishing are actually, I would say, older people. I see fewer and fewer younger people out ice fishing as I get older and older, as I've been continuing to get older. Like that one place with when I go there in the morning, looks like the movie Grumpy Old Man. In the week.
When you go out ice fishing, most of your videos are you just out in the open? Do you ever use a ice tent or whatever they're called, or ice house?
Yeah, I have. Shoot, what brand is it? It's a red one. It's in some of my videos.
Yeah.
So yes, I do use an ice house, and I usually just put a lantern in, and it keeps it warm enough for me. Or I have a propane heater I run in it.
Is that?
If it's windy out, it really helps to keep down the temperature. So. Yeah, mine's an Eskimo too. It's an Eskimo Quick Fish 2.
How much do those usually run? Are they fairly
I think I
expensive?
pay like $175 for mine. Mine's one of the cheaper ones though.
Okay.
Or 3. Mine's either a Quick Fish 2 or 3.
Let's see.
But it works for enough for me. A lot of people have permanent shacks on some lakes too. Like I fish enough places where it's not worthwhile for me to have a permanent shack though. Like if you had a big group of friends and you just went out there and made it into the party shack, it would be a lot of fun. But if you want to fish a lot of lakes, it's nicer just to have a portable shack. And they also have like ice castles, which are basically ice fishing campers that have holes to put the ice, to drill holes through, and they're basically like a camper that's made for ice fishing.
Have you ever seen?
Which costs like $20,000 to $30,000.
Have you ever seen one of those go in the ice? I mean, fall through?
Yeah, I haven't actually been in the ice one when it's fallen through, but I hear of it all the time.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful on the ice though. There's not many people that have them by me. As like if you go to like Walker, Minnesota, or Lake of the Woods or Devil's Lake, like there's just tons of them. But around farther south, like the ice season has been so inconsistent. Like one year we only had like 2 months of ice, where another year we had like 4 months of ice. Yes, the cat's here. These cats like to be in the center of attention.
Have we mounted any fish? If so, what size? I don't have any mounted myself.
I have a brook trout mounted, a pike, and I'm getting a bass mounted. So, and the pike is 42, the bass is 23, and the trout was 21.
Hi, Robbie.
What's something new I plan on trying this year? I've just been trying to do some collaborations with people, and like I haven't decided to do anything I normally wouldn't do. Like I just continue to try to fish different areas and different bites, so like my videos just don't turn into all the same thing. Like one of the things that I tried this year was fishing out of the creeks in this one county that I'm in right now, which has been pretty interesting, but I haven't done that great. I do need to prove I can catch a trout on my fly rod, which hasn't been going very well though.
Do you always take a fly rod with you when you go?
No.
No.
I have more confidence in just using my spinning rod than my fly rod.
How many, well, How many holes do you usually drill when you're going fishing, or does it just depend on what you're fishing for?
Anywhere between 3 and like 30 or 40. It depends on how much you're moving around or how much the fish are biting. Like in Wisconsin, you're allowed to have 3 lines per person. So usually, if I just go out and jig for a little while, usually I just drill like 2 holes and jig 2 different things.
High gold games.
Whereas if I'm like fishing for pike, I'll put out 3 like tip ups. Oh, and then I'm talking about this, like I didn't get to. So if you want to ice fish for bass, you usually just put a shiner minnow or a sucker minnow on a tip up, or like an automatic fisherman, which is like a rod you put into this holder, and there's like a spring activated thing where something pulls on the line and trips it, and it flies up and sets the hook. But from what I've heard, they're illegal in Minnesota.
Really?
Well, they're legal in Wisconsin. I don't know how other states have rules against them. Like each state has their own rules that are some are kind of funny. Like I think like in Washington and Oregon, you can't even use minnows for bait. And like in North Dakota, you could only use fat head minnows for bait, and you couldn't use like suckers or shiners.
Had no idea. That's interesting.
And in like Wisconsin, you can use anything for live bait except maybe crayfish or invasive species.
Yeah. What was the
like if you want to fish for, and if you want to fish for pike, most people use either the same techniques like tip ups or automatic fishermen, and they just put a minnow down. And I guess you don't necessarily want to set the bait down on bottom for pike or muskie, pike or bass, because bass don't like always feed. Bass and pike don't usually feed down. I guess the same thing could be said with crappies. Like they want the bait above them. You don't want to have the bait below them. So like they like to come up to the bait rather than go down to the bait. And then so it's like you usually set the bait anywhere from 2 to 3 feet up off the bottom to a foot below the ice. So like if you're in 2 or 3 feet of water, you set the bait like a foot below the ice. And I catch some smallies the wildlife. I caught one the other day.
You caught one in the video you posted today.
Yeah, that one was not caught the other day though.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of smallies in places around me. Like in the river I've been walleye fishing, there's smallies there. Like they just don't seem to bite very well when it's cold. Like I think they just sit in like 10 feet of water or like deep pools, and they just sit out deeper than they normally would in the summer now. So like if you're walleye fishing, you occasionally will hook into one. But it's not like they're aggressive up shallow chasing minnows. I think even in the river now, like it seems like the pods of bait are out deeper. It's not like they're up in the shallows. Like in the summertime, the minnows will move up where there's like rocks or up shallow, and then the smallies will scatter up and come out shallow.
Nesting Haven.
So then you basically would just use like square bill crankbaits or husky jerks or spinner baits or whatever other bass baits you'd use to go after them.
Nesting Haven asks, do you have any other hobby that you're as passionate about as fishing?
Probably not. Like I'm into like soil science, which I do for my career. I'm into gardening some. That's not happening with the weather we're having though.
No, not at all.
I know I bought some onion plants that are just sitting in my house because it's been too cold out. We just have too much snow.
Let's see. Have you ever been in a dangerous situation on the ice?
Yeah, I fell through in like 6 feet of water.
Whew. I mean, were there people there to help you out, or?
Yeah, there likely was someone there. It would have been tough getting out there though. I probably could have broke ice up to the bank. That was on like 1.5 inches of ice.
Oh.
Don't walk on 1.5 inches of ice. That's about the worst situation I've been in on the ice.
Johnny asked, what's your favorite fish to catch and eat?
I don't know. I like to fish for bigger fish. Like, I really like fishing for muskie. This last few years, I've got into doing some Great Lakes fishing, which I really like doing too. And like muskie fishing and like Great Lakes trolling is really takes a lot of like things to be just right for it to work out. It's not like it's like simple where you can always catch them. So that's what I like to fish for. My favorite fish to eat, I guess, if you want to fry fish, bluegill, perch, crappie, and walleye. Like if you want to grill fish, I like eating trout and salmon.
Let's see. Fish. What's the coldest you've been at? Coldest day you've been out fishing?
Ice fishing, like 14 below zero.
Jeez. Whew.
It was.
Let's see. All right, we are halfway through the show, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the Catch of the Week segment. If you guys don't know what the Catch of the Week segment is, this is where you guys send in your pictures to me every week, and I show them during the live show. If you have a YouTube channel, your link is in the description below. Musky's channel is in the description below. Make sure that you're checking him out. We're going to do the Catch of the Week real quick. I'm going to do my little narrative while it goes on, and then we'll get right back to asking Musky Hans some of these questions. So bear with me for just a second, guys. Catch of the Week. Well, there's no fish too small, no wrong species. I just want to see you getting out there and catching fish. First up from Ernest Outdoors. Him and his wife catching a total of 5 carp that day and 1 trout. This is Lisa from LNS on carp bait. Said that they were out there for about 4 hours, guys, and the wind was crazy that day. Next up, Anthony Horton fishing a great YouTube channel, catching a red snapper and an amberjack, both caught on a white jig. 2 that are on my bucket list. Fly fishing ninja himself, catching his brand new PB bass. If you didn't or aren't familiar with this segment, you know that his last bass was only about the size of a toothpick. So this is a huge improvement. Fishing with Mike Chavez. You know him as a catfisherman, but every once in a while he just has to catch a ditch pickle. He'll appreciate that. Ernest Cole on YouTube. Make sure you're checking all of these channels out in the description below, catching 2 solid bass. Make sure you're showing everybody some love in the chat. On YouTube, Big Fish catching a 44-inch eel on clam meat in Prince Edward Island in Canada. Then we've got the important part. This is our next generation of fishermen and fisherwomen. First up on YouTube, we've got Bassassin catching a 5-pound, 4-ounce bass. Make sure you're checking his channel out in the description below. Then we've got Charlie Hatch on Instagram. 7 pounds on a 5-inch culprit worm. Dewey Cash sent in a couple. I believe this is his son. I could be mistaken. Catching a striper here. And then he also sent in his very first fish ever caught. Super cool. That's what we like to see. Look at those smiles. Then Fishin N Stuff sent in a couple of pictures this past week. He took a couple of, or I think 1 or 2 families out, and they're just helping the next generation see how it's done. That's what it's all about, guys. So if you want to be featured in next week's Catch of the Week, all you have to do is send me your picture through Instagram or email or Facebook, and you'll be featured in it, and then I do a recap of it every Wednesday of just the Catch of the Week. Let me get the chat pulled back up. There we go. Not me. I'm built like a fat polar bear. Let's see. Big Star Wars influence. Channel name.
I really like the catch of the week. It shows what people have been fishing for. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, you get to see a little bit of everything too. Some stuff like Dexter sending that red tail catfish. That was.
I know. I like all the channels I'm watching too, but the only issue was like I watched John's fishtails video this morning. It just made me depressed because like him and his son were out fishing where it was like 75 and sunny, and I'm watching the snow out.
Johnny, my favorite fish to catch and eat would probably be crappie. I enjoy catfish also. You did miss catch of the week, Anthony, by like probably 20 seconds. But I did get your fish in it this week. I didn't miss you this time. Both of your fish were in it. You'll see it on Wednesday. Looks like the youngsters did better than the adults. Sometimes that's how
So
it
I
is.
guess I'm gonna go and talk about fishing for walleye now, maybe with ice, because I haven't mentioned that.
Fishing for walleye?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so like pike, in the most part, will relate to weeds in most lake if there's weeds, because pike are more of a weed-related fish.
Okay.
Like sometimes they'll be out in the middle of the lake, but usually they're related to like a weed structure, or wherever there's bait. So like if there's perch moving throughout the lake, like the pike will follow the perch or cisco or whatever the forage is.
Okay.
But like walleyes are more related to structure than any of the other fish. Like some of the lakes where you don't have a lot of structure, like some of the lakes in the Dakotas, which are like flooded farm fields, you'll have to move around and find them. But like a lot of the lakes like that I fish in Wisconsin here, they're all related to structure, unless there's like bait up shallow. So like if they'll either be on the deep weed edge or related to points. So like if you look at a lake map and see where there's like points or steep drop-offs or like a flat on a point or something, which walleyes will relate to, that is where you fish for them in the lakes usually. And the time of day also affects which species bite. A lot of times the best time to fish is the first couple hours of the day or the last couple hours of the day. And like for walleyes in lakes that are really clear and for crappies, sometimes they won't bite until actually night. So like if you're going fishing for like walleyes or crappies, you may not even want to go out fishing till almost dark, or you may not catch any of them till almost dark or after dark. Whereas like perch or northerns are more likely to bite during the daytime though. So like during the daytime, your best bet to catch is bass or pike. And like even some days pike will have like a noon bite for some reason. Like you'll just have out tip ups and they'll just start flying all of a sudden, like at noon or like 2 in the afternoon or some random time during the day. Like I know on that slough where I fell through, I out in that video, like I've had days where you go out there at 10 in the morning and you'll have flags nonstop and then for like an hour or two and then they'll just go dead. And I've had days where you go out there at 2 in the afternoon and you get like 5 flags right away, and in the last hour of light, they don't bite. But like some days just a really light period or daytime sensitive.
Do you ever look at the like moon phases and best time of day to
I
go
do
fishing?
sometimes for musky fishing. I should really keep a journal about it, but I'm not the greatest at keeping records of it. Just like me doing an intro to my videos, because usually I just end up recording my intro and my outro when I'm editing them.
Yeah.
Like I frequently forget to record the intro and the outro.
I do the same thing.
I don't know. Some of my videos I've just like recorded me don't even start recording till I actually have the boat out and set. Like I know a lot of people say they want B-roll in your video and like you putting in the boat and everything. Like I have mixed opinions of like I don't know, sometimes it's nice and other times it's not nice. So yeah, I think dawn and dusk are the best times to ice fish usually. But like certain lakes that are really dirty, for example, may have a good daytime bite, and certain lakes species may not bite till like the nighttime. Like for like crappie fishing or walleye fishing through the ice, I would try. It's the first start out trying spots like first daybreak and dark, or even fish after dark for them. But for like bluegills, I would mostly focus on the first couple hours of the morning, the last couple hours of the day. It seems to be the best time. And I notice if it's sunny out, they're more particular to the timing of the day than if it's cloudy out. So like if you have clear ice, which they can see through, like a lot of times the fish will stick to the early morning or dark bite. But like if there's a lot of snow on the ice or it's cloudy out, sometimes they'll be more likely to just have like a sporadic constant bite during the day, like not fast and furious. I don't know. I seem to do better fishing on cloudy days. I don't know why. It really depends upon the time of year too, though, because like if you're fishing like muskies or bass in the springtime, sometimes the best time to go out can be 3 in the afternoon on a hot, sunny day, and you find the warmest water. But like later in the year, it seems to be the opposite. That sounds like a great idea, Wyatt Life. But I really just think it depends upon the time of the year and the fish's mood. Like, I think when the water's cold and it's warming up as the day goes on, sometimes the best bite will be at 3 in the afternoon when the water temp peaks. But, like, once the water temp gets so warm, then I think they'd relate more to, like, a dawn and a dusk bite. But I guess it really just depends upon how the lake fishes. But a lot of times if you go out during the middle of the day, the fishing is awful.
Let's see. See you, Robbie. See you, Joe. I think that's a great idea, Wyatt, also. That's super cool.
But I've actually noticed that in like April and May, as the water temp is warming, that I've had days where the best bite is in the middle of the afternoon. But, and I know it's even with like trout in the streams, like some days I'll go out early in the morning and it'll be dead. But then like later in the afternoon when the insects start hatching and stuff starts biting.
Let's see.
So I think there's a lot of factors that affect how the fish bite. And I think if you kept a journal, you can maybe find different patterns. But the thing is with fishing, like some days you'll just try something really random and have it work. And in other days, you'll just stick to what you're doing and it'll eventually work. So like you have to be willing to change it up and you have to be willing to stick to what you like. I think more so for like musky fishing than anything else though. Like I've had days where I've thrown the same bait for 4 hours and after 4 hours of fishing, I finally get an action on the same bait. And I've had it where 4 hours of fishing the same bait gets nothing. I don't know. I try to find lunar tables. I usually just go whenever I have time.
I'm the same way. I look at it when I go fishing, but because of my work schedule, I can't just go when it's 90% or 100%, whatever it is.
Also, the weather controls it more than anything too. Like if I have time and the weather's nice, I'll go. But like obviously, if there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind, there's nothing I'm gonna really fish other than off bank or from on a creek.
I find it cool to get tips from anglers like you who are more species specific. I get muskies in spring, fall mostly.
I'm subscribed to Twisted Fishing.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I got to meet him at the catfishing conference. Johnny asked Sarah and Muskie, I had back surgery March last year and just got approved to go fishing and hunting. What information would y'all have for me? What are you
planning on fishing for?
Yeah, what are you fishing for?
And like what do you have for boats or anything? That's good, Dewey.
Have you heard the old saying, when the lake bottom turns, the fishing is best?
Like turns over, so like the lake will stratify to where, will unstratify or stratify to where the water temp is the same the whole way throughout the lake, and there's like no hypolimnion and epilimnion and metalimnion.
You are much more.
That's what turnover is, because it's basically water is densest at the temperature of 40 degrees. So like in the wintertime in the ice, like you'll drop down a temperature probe and the surface will be like 33 degrees and then the bottom will be like 40 degrees. Whereas in the summertime, you'll drop down the temperature and the temperature of the surface will be like 70 degrees and then the bottom will be like 55 degrees. And the bottom temp really depends upon how much groundwater is coming into the lake and how much water is in the lake. So like in the spring period and the fall, there's a period of time where the water temp is uniform throughout. The turnover is good for certain species, like supposedly for musky fishing, it really gets them feeding. Personally, from my experience, I suck at musky fishing late in the fall. I don't know why, but I seem to struggle with like fish with large suckers and big plastic baits.
Johnny, where are you located? Like, what lakes are you near in South Carolina? The bottom layer in summer will be void of oxygen down south.
Yeah, I was getting to that though. But depending on how nutrient-rich your lake was, it will affect how much dissolved oxygen is in the summer, because if it's all uniform throughout, or it will be able to mix in oxygen down to there. But like the water can actually hold more dissolved oxygen when it's colder also. But once it stratifies in the summer, there's no mixing between the layers. So if there's a high biological oxygen demand, sorry if I'm getting into the scientific terms here.
Go for it. Go for it.
But basically, all the algae and dying organic matter, such as plants, algae, and fish, and other insects and stuff, they all require oxygen to respire, and they all require oxygen to break down. So like if you get a bunch of stuff that falls into the bottom of the lake, it's going to use the oxygen up that's down there. And the warmer the temperature gets, the more microbial activity there's going to be that's going to use up the oxygen. And actually it's microbes that are using the oxygen to break down the other material. And there's actually certain microorganisms that can use other things besides oxygen to get an electron source too. If you want to talk to me about that, which I probably don't want to talk about on this stream. But when it's anaerobic, there's still some microbial activity going on, but it slows down when it gets anaerobic.
Johnny, let's see. If I don't know if you have an Instagram or a Facebook, but go to my Instagram or my Facebook and shoot me a message, and I could give you some info on Lake Greenwood. Taylorsville in Kentucky, every fish will be above the 15-inch mark. Just an example and a hint.
Yeah, well, in the southern lakes, most of the southern lakes are anaerobic, except a few of them that can have trout in them. There it's warm enough, and it doesn't get warm enough. There's not enough, unless there's a cold river flowing into it. It's not like they're going to be able to keep an oxygenated hypolimnion. Whereas lakes up here, certain lakes are having nutrient issues or nutrient enrichment issues through various human practices that are becoming more anaerobic through time, whereas where they start to lose dissolved oxygen down deeper. But there's still definitely lakes that have dissolved oxygen all the way down to bottom, and like they're 50 to 100 feet deep. And those are the lakes that can have trout, because trout need water less than like 24 degrees C. And Cisco and some of the other cold water species live in the lake. So,
hey, PGH.
Some of the lakes here keep that. I know, like in Big Green Lake, which is north of me, like an hour, that they're starting to get a greater and greater area that's becoming anaerobic, and it's one of the few inland lakes where there's lake trout, which is unfortunate, but because of what our state does, we're kind of adding a lot of nutrients, which I think is a whole issue that's happening to our surface waters across the whole country is the nutrient enrichment through our fertilizers and other additions. And being as a soil scientist, I deal with that all the time.
I want to try Lake Murray. I've not been there yet. Maybe go to here when I get home.
That cat master.
Hey, Cat Master. I'm going to Lake Murray in probably 2 months with Grab Life by the Fish, hopefully. We're going to try and make that happen. Okay. PGH.
What do I think about Indian spearing? I have mixed opinions about it. I don't know. I think they should be allowed to do some harvesting because, like, we took their land away from them. A lot of the lakes that they're spearing in, they don't even have, like, good natural reproduction of walleyes. And I really don't think they actually know how many walleyes are in some of these lakes. I think a lot of people complain when they can't catch fish, and I know, like with muskie fishermen, they're super, super against anyone killing a muskie because it could be the next 50-incher. Although, like 99% of the muskies will never make it to 50 inches, it's like a very small percentage of them. So they're just really against anyone killing any muskies, and they can kill so many muskies. But I know in like Mille Lacs, they've had really bad, some issue that has caused the walleyes to decline. And they've actually done some studies that as the lakes are, except for this year, the lakes are getting a higher higher mean annual temp. And the ditch pickles are doing a lot better than the walleye. So a lot of these lakes, like the ditch pickle populations has increased, where the walleye population has decreased because for the largemouth to take well, they need to have such a certain period in the summer for their young of the year to get so big to survive through the winter. So, like, as you get more warm summers, you're probably going to get a lot better year class of largemouth. And largemouth are a lot less sensitive to substrate that's in a lake than like a walleye is. Because like walleyes are broadcast spawners, and they basically need like rocks to spawn in and rocky habitat, where largemouth can spawn in rocky habitats, but anything that's sandy or mucky, as you guys probably all that are watching this know, can have good largemouth reproduction. They probably live or are introduced to every state in the lower 48 states.
Yeah.
And I think like in Maine, people aren't very hot about them, and out west in some places, but they have been introduced to that, and they've basically been able to reproduce anywhere. So eventually we're probably going to have a few more largemouths and fewer walleyes. I would say the best places to walleye fish in Wisconsin are all river systems. So, and they all have good natural reproduction, and you like see most size classes present. So like Lake Winnebago and the rivers that flow into it is good, and the Mississippi River and the Wisconsin rivers, all good for walleyes. Yeah, the spearing takes more adult fish than anything because they're easier to see, probably, and they're up shallow. I don't think the walleyes are super abundant in a lot of those lakes either. Like overpopulations aren't good either, so you don't have to manage them. Like in the lakes that are spearing, I don't think overpopulation is really an issue with the walleyes though. Like, there's definitely some lakes in Wisconsin that are overpopulated with muskies and bass, and there's maybe a few with walleye, and there's some that are overpopulated with muskie too. Like there's some lakes where they only have a 28-inch size limit on muskie. I know that. I saw that Outdoors Weekly. I went to the meeting and I voted for them to keep it at 5. They also on the Rock River voted to either close the season in the spring when they spawn or increase the size limit to 18 inches, which I think the 18-inch size limit's a little ridiculous because most people go for walleyes to fish them. So I don't know whether people were there at the meeting who just didn't like fish for walleyes or aren't a fan of people keeping fish, because it makes no sense to me why walleye anglers would want an 18-inch size limit. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't just make the daily bait limit 3 a day. But that's just my personal opinion. Maybe it's to deter the amount of people fishing there, because in Wisconsin, like, you can't fish for bass right now on a lot of the lakes. But on the river systems, they're open all year. So, like, all the bass fishing tournaments are on, like, lakes that are open all year. Like, the spot where I have posted a couple videos from next week, and, like, every single dock is going to be flipped, like, hundreds of times because there's 2 tournaments on that lake. Yeah, walleyes don't even taste that big good when they're, like, 20 inches. The best walleyes to eat are 12 to 15 inchers. I think maybe it's either to deter people from fishing there or because people just want to get bigger ones, because it doesn't make sense to me as a walleye angler to have the 18-inch 3 a day size limit.
This might
like, I'd personally rather see a slot like 3 fish and you can only keep 1 over 18 or something, or just reduce the bag limit.
Is there walleye tournaments?
Yeah, there's walleye tournaments.
Okay.
They have them on the Mississippi River, Lake Winnebago, and Green Bay a lot. If you want to catch a big walleye, your best place to go is probably Lake Erie or Green Bay. Like, the average walleye size is like 24 inches. They're getting at the Pier Dam right now. Where if you want to get ones to keep, probably your best bet is to fish the Winnebago system in Wisconsin. For some reason, they were saying at the meeting, the Conservation Congress meeting I went to, that the size in Winnebago doesn't get as big as like the Wisconsin or Mississippi River or some of the other waters, though. I don't know why, but it just doesn't.
Easton, what do you mean by how to ice fish properly?
I know I've been asked by a couple people to make a video like what you need to get started ice fishing. So I should actually make that video, or go to Cabela's and just show the stuff, or Amazon and make the video of it. I don't think I'm going to make that video till October, though, till when people start looking at ice fishing stuff.
Yeah.
Because right now it'll probably get 75 or 100 views from my loyal subscribers and not get any views for 6 months.
It'd be a nice little chunk of views after the 6 months are up, though.
No, I think if you make like some how-to videos or stuff that people will actually search for, you can get a lot of views from them, though.
That and reviews.
Yeah, because I know I made a video like how to fish for saugers, and I just basically said that you just can use like a hook and split shot and jig and just drift deep holes in the like cold water, and it got like 1,600 views, and it got as many dislikes as likes. And my channel was only like 100 subscribers, but it like continues to get like 5 views every day.
I think the DNR is trying to blame the fishermen for the drop of the population of walleye, but there's really no way to tell how many fish are in the lake, and the DNR are overestimating. Yeah,
they really have to do some type of population assessment frequently and just look at relative change and do the same assessment methods to see what their estimated population is. And like, they could do creel surveys and stuff. Like, our DNR has cut back their budget so much, they just continually cut back on the amount of people they're hiring. So it's not like they're doing that many assessments. And like, all those weeks I've been fishing, like, the only information I can get on a lot of them is how many fish they've stocked in them. Like, that's the only information you know. And they're all like saying there might be some reproduction in them. But do you really know? No. So you basically just go there and see what you catch. Like, a few of the bigger ones that are more popular, they assess more often, but some of the smaller water bodies, they never assess. So,
Fly Fishing Ninja, what's up?
like the Lake Winnebago, they do assessments on I don't know how many of the DNR do they. I don't look that much into what the Indians actually take. I know a lot of people are really mad about it. They definitely take some fish. They're starting to stop stocking the lake with walleyes. I don't know. I have mixed opinion. Like the only reason they like stock rainbow trout or walleyes in a lot of lakes are for public relations. So like they just stock them for people to go out there and catch. Like a lot of the lakes, there's like no way the fish will actually reproduce in, but it's all about public relations. So they just want to make people happy. So like they'll put something in their people. Oh, LPGH. So they'll just like put fish in there to make people. And a lot of like the lake associations and so forth want there to be walleyes there. So they're like stock stuff that people want there. Like in Minnesota, it's the same way. Like a lot of the lakes, they stock walleyes in and they don't even reproduce. But like every lake, the people who live there want you to stock walleyes in there.
Just so they can catch them.
Yeah. Like people don't want to go elsewhere to catch them. Like there's some place where certain fish species are meant to be and there's other places where they're not meant to be. There's also some non-native fisheries that are excellent. Like Lake Michigan, for example, they'd probably survive in that river you were fishing, precision angling. But like Lake Michigan is just like a completely non-native species. And like people there hate the only trout species that are native there. So like lake trout and brook trout are the only trout that are native to Wisconsin. And like the Germans settled here and they like brought in brown trout, and a lot of our creeks get a little on the warm side for brown trout, and brown trout are more of a predator than brook trout. So a lot of the creeks are gradually getting more and more brown trout in them. And they've got brown trout.
So
I know there's been some instances where the Native Americans have taken more than they could. But like in Lake Michigan, they brought in alewives via ship ballast and round gobies, and then they've stocked the Pacific salmon in there. Same thing with Lake Ontario and the other Great Lakes. They stock the Pacific salmon in there to eat all the non-native species, basically. And they stocked the brown trout to eat the round gobies. And everyone, and like if you want to catch a 20 to 40 pound brown trout, that's where you go to Lake Michigan or Lake Ontario. And everyone just fishes out there for like steelhead and salmon.
Trout fishing is a sore subject for me. It's on my to-do list, and it's been getting pushed back and pushed back. So for some reason, Mother Nature hates me. I was supposed to go trout fishing when I went to the Kentucky Catfish Conference, and they had that huge flood. So, but I'll get on them soon.
Yeah, Lake Ontario is a good lake for trout and salmon. So is Lake Michigan. Last year I got into trolling out there. I'll have some more videos out there. One time I went to this year, I didn't even get to taking video. It would have been funny. It would have been a funny video if we did though, because the only fish we caught was when we got a snag and we reeled in our lines and the fish was just on our line.
How often do you get to go salmon fishing?
I don't know, like a couple times a month. This month I haven't went out. I wish I could have went out because they were getting a lot of nice browns. And they're good to smoke. They don't even reproduce there because the waters there don't have a good connection. The streams that flow in on the Wisconsin side don't have a good connection to groundwater. And they don't stay cold enough for the smolts to live and for them to reproduce. Because you need cold temp. water that stays cool all year for the trout and salmon to reproduce. And these are like streams that flow through like a fine textured glacial till that do not have a good connection through groundwater, and their flow really varies. So, but in some of the Michigan streams, they do reproduce. You fish in St. Joe and Portage, Twisted Fishing TV. I hear that's been the place to be lately until we got these 15-foot waves. I watched some I seen some videos the other from Saturday where the break walls were like completely underwater. Like the waves were going over the break walls. Like it was absolutely crazy.
Yes, I still have my Pelican for now. That's probably going to be changing fairly soon. Yes, all the weather killed the bite. Small world. You saw my mods for my kayak. I'm actually about to do a video series on every mod that I have on the kayak, and I'm going to redo the kayak crate because I'm going to make a new one for the new kayak. I appreciate it, Pete. Any other questions you guys have for Hans?
I guess in the summer, the content of my videos, like I'll probably still do some trout fishing videos, and we'll go out and just fish for whatever bites in this river. I'm not planning on doing some really random species catch and cook, so I'm gonna go like and fish for shovel-nose sturgeon and cook one, and we might keep some like river species and stuff. But like I'll probably continue to do like multi-species fishing videos where we get like catfish and sturgeon and walleye suckers, sheephead. Ugly sheep's head, though, not the pretty saltwater sheep's head. I don't know why, but I think the saltwater sheep's head people catch are about 100 times prettier than the freshwater sheep's head we catch. But the sheep's head we catch here are really annoying, and they like always swallow your hook. And some lakes are just full of them, and rivers.
That's another one I've never caught.
The saltwater one or freshwater one?
Either. I'm hoping to get on some saltwater ones this year when I go out to the beach.
Those look like one of the easier saltwater species to get into, though.
Yeah,
I see lots of videos of what? They are?
Yeah, they are.
I see lots of videos of people catching them.
And saltwater trout seem to be pretty easy too. So.
Wes Lovelace was saying like they move out deeper in the middle of summer though, and they were like up shallow in the wintertime. I usually fish 3 to 4 days a week. Yeah, I'll fish with you this summer outdoors weekly. I'm gonna message you on Instagram and see when you go to Wisconsin. We'll do some type of whatever type of fishing works for us.
Just because you're in it, Bryce, it's gonna be amazing. I go most of the time. It's just 1 day a week. It depends on how many days I have off. If I've got 4 days off a week, it's gonna be about 3 days a week. Speckled trout are fun. Yeah, Get Out the House, Go Fish has been on the trout lately, so making me very jealous. I'm going to Virginia Beach next weekend, hoping to go fishing on the pier. Do you live close to Virginia Beach? Dewey is doing a meetup there. There you go, Hans. You've got Outdoors Weekly in your videos, so all of your videos will be amazing from now on.
Yeah. I don't know, my channel has really grown. It's been a lot of work, though.
It's grown a lot.
But it's like you have to post lately and interact with people.
Yes.
So you have to put like a lot of effort. Like when I first started posting videos, like I just posted videos, and it wasn't like I watched a ton of other people's videos. And like I didn't gain that many subscribers, but like since I started interacting with people more, it's really helped my channel.
Going to live streams helps a lot also.
Yeah, the only issue with live stream is a lot of them just will friend you to get another friend. Like you
Yeah.
find a few channels that like your stuff, but it's like 1 in every 5 people that you get actually consistently will watch your stuff.
What part of South Carolina are you in? I may have already asked you this. I'm sorry if I have. Yeah, the whole we'll call it friend for friend is very against YouTube rules. So just remember that when all of you other people that do that are in those live streams.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's hard. A lot of times I don't get live streams until they're already over. So YouTube is a ton of work. When I really started to grow, I've been showing more of my personality.
I usually do too. Like when I do a review of something's a piece of junk, I just say it's a piece of junk. Like I don't care.
Okay,
Like, I guess if I was sponsored by someone, I'd be a little nicer, but seeing as I'm not sponsored by anyone, which I kind of like if I have something which I don't like, I'm gonna say I don't like it or say what I feel. I think people like that though when people just act like themselves.
I think that helps you grow at least. I don't think
Like you might
anyone.
get a few dislikes, which happen when your channel grows anyways. I know
Yeah,
I've made a few people mad at me.
that means you're succeeding. For every dislike, you succeed a little bit more.
Yeah. Like someone got mad at me for posting a trout fishing report the other day where I was honest with where I fished. And I posted a video where I said the stream and caught no fish.
That's what you should be, is yourself. I agree, Bill. You live in Hartsville, South Carolina. Okay. I'm in the upstate, Anderson, South Carolina. So I'm about 20 minutes from Greenville. Let's see. Dewey, I know you posted on here before we start wrapping this up about your meetup. I think it was May 26th. Let me make sure I got that right. Let me find it. Yeah, May 26th at Ruby Inlet.
Yeah, I still need to go meet Badger Farm Girl one of these days. I haven't made it over to Port Washington where she fishes. We need to go do that though. That's one of the spots I'll probably go out on Lake Michigan when I start going out. You made a clickbait video that got 10K views outdoors weekly.
What clickbait video was that? Okay. See, that's real close to me. You don't do clickbait that often.
So I have on a video is like 3,800.
Alright guys, last questions for us, and then we're going to be wrapping this up. We're at almost an hour and a half now. So, last questions. While you guys are asking your last couple of questions for us, I do have shirts out. Bear with me. I've got a couple of different styles. This is the shirt as of right now. Catch, photo, release. I've had a couple of you catfishermen wanting a catfish in the lens, and I'm going to make that happen. So give me about 2 weeks and I'll have that coming at you. They come from kid sizes all the way up to whatever size you want. I'm making them myself. They're all screen printed.
Hi Marshall, thanks for stopping by.
Okay, Dewey, it will be in next week, so let me go through my stuff. What happened was my video that I had originally made got deleted. So I had to go back and kind of hopefully get everybody in there, but I'll put your gar picture in there next week. Let me just find it. Catfish Bill, you want a 2XL. Let me write that down. And you can have the logo on the front or the back. I just need to know if you want a special order. They're $15 a piece. Alright. Last questions, guys.
I took some video of the trout pond at the Wisconsin Fishing Expo, but I think I deleted it. I didn't post it.
Let's see. Front and back.
No problem, Marshall.
Alright, thanks, Dewey. Yes, don't forget, guys, send in your pictures for the catch of the week. See you, Marshall. I'm going to get these shirts ordered this week.
What are our goals this year? Last year, I set a goal, which was like 2 years ago, I set a goal was to land 20 muskies, and I made my goal. Last year, I said I wanted to land 25 muskies and 2 over 45, and I was nowhere near my goal. And my dad was like getting mad at me for setting a goal for fishing with like what I want to catch and so forth. So I almost think I have to keep that same goal this year. I maybe should make some trips to Green Bay where I can actually get into some big muskies though. But that was my goal last year. I don't know. I might have to just redo the goal until I make it.
My goal is to catch a trout this year. That's my goal. I'd like to get on to 20+ pound cat in Santee when I go next month. That'd be nice.
So the biggest cat I've got is like 19 pounds or 20 pounds. It was a flat channel. Like I haven't caught that many flatheads. I could probably try flathead fishing the same one of the spots I've been fishing, but because they're there, someone said they caught like a 60 pounder there.
What's your PB, Bill? What are you trying to break?
I think the thing is when you set a goal, it makes you put more effort towards it.
Definitely.
So, yes, it does Outdoors Weekly.
Oh,
the 365 bass challenge, you could do that in my own pond.
In one day?
I don't know. Last year, there was catching a lot of them there. They're all dinks, so they're all 10, 12 inches.
PB Flathead 68 and Bill's is 36.30.
Well, I think my PB Flathead is probably like 10, but I didn't have a scale, so I don't know how much it weighed. I think it was like 30 inches.
Any other questions?
The 68's a huge one.
That is massive. I think Santee just broke the record, and it was only 89 or something like that. 35 pounds. That's pretty big.
I didn't realize there was such a following in catfish fishing until I started watching all these channels farther south of me. Because, like here, there's like a few catfish fishermen, but it's not like super popular. There's still a ton of channel cats and some flathead cats. But, like, I know down farther south, what lives in the rivers is catfish, mostly. Because they're really dirty and warm. So, like, you don't have all the walleyes and other stuff and pike and stuff in them like we have here.
I know that the catfishing community is probably one of the most open communities I've seen as far as
the people in the catfish community are all pretty nice,
yeah,
from what I've noticed.
Yeah, they're super nice. Kentucky state record is 98 pounds. Wow.
I think the catfish community is a little more open and nice. I think some of the people in some of the other communities are like really particular with how you do things. Like in like the trout community and like musky fishing community, people are like really particular with how you release fish and so forth.
Alright.
And like people in the
last
musky
call.
community are like really secret about spots and so forth too. Like
That's how bass fishing is.
What?
That's how bass fishing is.
With particular about spots and so
Yeah.
forth. Like people will go to the point of like putting black backing in their background of where they're fishing and so forth. Or they just won't post their pictures because they don't want people to know how they're doing. But I don't know. I just included like the best fishing channels I like to watch are just people who go out with their friends and family and have a fun time together.
Yep.
Like I really enjoy watching people's videos where they just take like their kids out fishing and have fun with them. Like whether they're catching a 5-pound bass or a 12-inch bass, it's still fun.
Well, the kids' reactions are the best too. They're gonna fight it like it's a 10-pound bass, and no matter what. I mean,
like I just want to see people who are happy with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see people that are not happy about not getting their hugest, largest fish or whatever. I just want to see people who enjoy what they're doing. Like I love how Dewey takes his kids out fishing all the time, and his kids always have a lot of fun, even if they're catching a 12-inch bass.
Yep. Dewey is extremely family oriented in all of his videos. I love it. Alright. I am going to end the stream, guys. Thanks, Hans, for coming on the show.
No problem.
That was extremely informative. I think everybody learned a lot. So.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I had a blast. So, everybody remember, Catch of the Week every week. We're going to have Dieter Milhorn in here next week to talk about catfish tournament fishing and catfishing in general, maybe a little saltwater fishing. We'll see how it goes. Most of you know him. He's an awesome guy, and it's going to be a good show. So good night, everyone. Thanks for coming in to another live stream. I appreciate every single one of you. And as always, I will catch you later.